A little dog.
Hi, I'm Jane Rudolph.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minor.
I'm Pat Shelton, and welcome to Reel to Reel.
You know, when we say welcome to Reel, we're saying welcome to a whole magazine idea. This format for doing television is really a great one because it gives us such a sense of combinations, putting things together for you and for us. We have so many good combinations tonight. So first, I want to tell you about Profiles in Faith, which is Tom Takahashi and Bob Curtis. Quite a combination. Wait till you see them.
Speaking of a combination, where do you put Jack Lemmon on a trip to New York and Boston and who knows where in between? Anyway, Joe O'Neill tells you all about the fun-filled moments in vintage VCR.
And power of music. Did you ever think about music in terms of power?
No.
Well, today we're going to discuss the power of music, especially in terms of healing.
The power of music can be thought of as rock music, even as, classical music. There's a line from a song by Chicago's that says, does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
Well, time and caring goes very much into a religious life. Thea Bowmann has done something great with her religious life in her time, her caring, her great talents, her great gift. And she was one thing she says, I have made my vows to God, and I don't have time to fear.
My home is with Jordan, deep river. I want to cross over. I want to cross over. I want to cross over into
Franciscan sister Thea Bowmann, the only black member of her order, has held many concerts such as this in past years. With her musical, intellectual, cultural, and spiritual gifts, Sister Thea, in a very simple way, confronts today's pressing issues while bringing a message of joy, hope, love, and unity. However, now, she said she feels a sense of urgency about her work. The cancer in her breast, diagnosed in 1984, has spread into her bones. Though in great pain, it is the joy which prevails.
I try to intentionally concentrate my energies on thinking about life, on thinking about living as fully as I can, thinking about sharing what I have of life and of love and of laughter and joy. And if I can concentrate my energy there, then I don't have time for fear. Because I think life and love and laughter occupy the same channels.
You feel like shouting when you come out. Whoa, when you come out. Whoa, when you come out. Now did you feel like shouting when you come out? Leaning on.
Born in Canton, Mississippi, the 51-year-old Sister Thea is the granddaughter of a slave and daughter of a physician and teacher. She grew up in extreme poverty. It was a group of Catholic priests and religious who improved schools and hospitals in her town that influenced Sister Thea's conversion to Catholicism when she was just 11 years old. At 16, she took her final vows for the sisterhood.
I was so impressed by the quality of sharing that they brought to my community and the kind of change that I, even as a child, could see them making, that I decided I wanted to be a part of that.
I don't know about you, but I done made my vow to the Lord. And I never made my vow to the Lord, and never will turn back. I will go, I shall go to see the end can be.
Music was part of growing up for Sister Thea, and her mother shared her love for song.
She thought that if she listened to music when she was pregnant, she would have a child that would be musically inclined. And my mother was a singer, and our home was full of music. My world was full of music. People were singing in the churches. My neighbor would sing when she was feeding her chickens or when she was hanging out the wash. Men and women and children would sing in the fields to make the time go faster. I guess what I'm saying is the music was a part of the teaching. It was a part of the prayer. It was a part of the entertainment. It was a part of the work. And there were certain songs that went with certain kinds of work. So music surrounded my life.
Oh, yes, I done made my vow to the Lord, and never will turn back. I shall go to see what the end's gonna be.
As I have grown older, I have realized how many of the coping and survival mechanisms, how many of the family and community building mechanisms were embodied in the song. And I think that they are still effective for building community and for teaching and passing on those survival skills and to help people to grasp joy.
Sister Thea, in 1972, completed a doctoral dissertation at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., on Negro spirituals and the oral literary tradition. She soon became known on college and university campuses across the country. Yet, her message is simple and draws from the great strengths found in her Black heritage with its strong family bond and faith.
Occasionally you run into people who have grown up in environments where they didn't have the support of family. And when I say family, I'm not talking about one natural parent, and a child. I'm talking about whoever loved you into life, whether it's a grandparent or an uncle or an aunt or a neighbor or a teacher or a friend. Occasionally you find people who have not had that experience, but they're very much in consciousness of their need and of their longings and of their yearnings. And I try to help people to face those and to say, all right, sometimes I'm lonely. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I don't know if I can make it. But I'm still here. And I can make life different for myself. I can make life different for my family. I can make life different in my community. And if I work with you, we can make life better for all of us.
There certainly is great freedom and peace which comes from what Sister Thea preaches. Letting go of what, in the end, really does not matter, and concentrating on what really does.
Sooner will be done the troubles of this world, the troubles of this world, the troubles of this world. Sooner will be done the troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with God. I want to meet my mother. I want to see my father. I want to see King Jesus. I'm going home to live with God. And I don't know how soon that's going to be, and you don't know how soon that's going to be, but however soon, It's going to be a great getting up morning.
It is.
In 1989, Sister Thea said, "I'm a pilgrim on the journey looking for home. And Jesus told me the church is my home, and Jesus told me that heaven is my home, and I have here no lasting city." On March 30th, 1990, Sister Thea Bowmann, the granddaughter of a slave, died. This pilgrim who had touched so many lives made her final journey home.
Could this Philadelphian be made a saint of the Catholic Church? The answer may be yes. She's Catherine Drexel, beatified by Pope John Paul II in 1988. Now you can experience her adventurous life story on audio cassette. Get America's Catherine Drexel, The Life of a Saintly Woman. Hear about her life through the voices of the people who actually knew her and continue her work today. The cost of this dramatic audio cassette is only $4.95. To order, call 215-587-3775.
My name is Jesse Cordy, and what I'm going to tell you is real. On January 4th, 1987, a passenger train en route between Washington and New York collided with a freight train. In the trial that followed, the engineer admitted to having smoked marijuana and overlooking security measures. They say that marijuana doesn't hurt anyone. But this time, 16 people died. Among them, Laura Cordy, my wife.
I guess we all could understand the concept of music as a medium of communication. But have you ever thought about music in terms of healing? Well, today we're going to discuss the power of music and its uses in healing. Our guest is Father Carl Marucci from the Diocese of Camden, and he's the associate pastor of St. Teresa's Parish in Runnymede, New Jersey. Father is a classical pianist. And Father, I can't wait for you to explain to us the use of music in healing. How is that used?
Well, Pat, oftentimes in my ministry, I've had the opportunity to do quite a bit of concert work, both choral concert work, solo piano, even organ concert work. I've been able to do a lot of retreat work at different parts of the East Coast here, and I use music extensively, and I learned very quickly that music has a power to communicate. It can enliven people, it can relax people. But what I found was that it has an incredible potential that far greater than words. While words speak about feelings and emotions, music is feeling and emotion. And so what I find oftentimes is that in using music as prayer, then all of a sudden music, which is feeling and emotion, takes us right to the center of ourselves. And that's where we find the Lord. And that's where all the source of healing and possibilities come alive in our own lives.
You know, in the earlier piece we saw today on Reel to Reel with Sister Thea Bowmann, perhaps music is helping to lengthen her life. Maybe that is a source of healing for her at this time. It's a consideration. Tell me, in your retreats, exactly how do you teach the people? What do you give them to draw on this healing through music?
Well, oftentimes I use the image that it's an image of Jesus standing at the door knocking. There is no doorknob. He must be let in from the inside. And so the artist's symbolism is that Jesus stands outside the door of our hearts and knocks. We let him in. And music does just that. What happens is the music calms us, quiets us, centers us, and then his healing, his power comes in, and it brings us an incredible sense of peace within ourselves. And in that peace, we find ourselves not alone. And so I can understand those who, in experiencing the most devastating kinds of sicknesses and brokenness and illness, when they discover Christ in the gift of music or in any other way that it is possible, when they discover Christ there, they're not alone, and there is no need to fear because Christ is with them.
Now, do we just find this healing power through classical music or religious music? Can it even be found in popular music?
Oh, yes, it can. When music is used for prayer, to speak with the Lord, to be in the presence of the Lord, then the Lord will use the music in the way that he wants to do in order to accomplish the healings that he wishes to. Sometimes that might be an inner healing. an ability, once again, to forgive someone whom we've had a past falling out with. Or it might be an actual physical healing. St. Paul says that it is no longer just I who live, it is Christ who lives in me. Music brings us to that awareness of Christ at our center. And then the question is not will Christ heal, but how will he heal?
Mm-hmm. I suppose that's why music added to our masses these days it's such an adjunct. It embellishes the messages and the prayers, and people feel release, and I understand it even more now through this form of healing, yes.
And I really respect the wisdom of the bishops who in the liturgy documents state very explicitly that music is of preeminent importance in worship because they see music as prayer and God touching our lives.
Father, thank you so much for sharing with us your ministry through music. And do you like movies? Do you enjoy films?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
immensely.
well, next up, we have our own Joe O'Neill. And Joe is recommending a real winner for us this week on this week's edition of Vintage VCR.
It's been said humanity separates us from the beasts, which may be lucky for the beasts. For a sure example of that observation, I urge you to rent a home video called The Out-of-Towners. This is a wonderful Neil Simon comedy starring Jack Lemmon and Sandy Dennis. You'll witness the adventures of an Ohio couple as they travel to the Big Apple, New York City, the home of one of the largest collections of humanity on Earth. The Out-of-Towners is played for laughs. George and Gwen Kellerman walk into a city where garbage strikes, muggings, and stolen car chases are only half of the misfortunes they will endure. Here's a clip of the manic Jack Lemmon and the patient Sandy Dennis trying to recover their lost luggage. They're laid over in Boston because their destination, New York, is fogged in. You might recognize actor Billy D. Williams in this scene.
See the bags come out? Gonna read the claim checks again? I got 12 minutes to catch a train.
Well, there's no cause for alarm, Mr.
What's the difference what my name is? We're just gonna waste time discussing my name. Oh, Kellerman, George Kellerman. All right, there's 10 seconds gone discussing my name. Now, in 11 minutes, the most important train of my life is gonna pull out of South Station. We're standing here talking about my name.
Well, let me say, first of all, Mr. Kellerman, that TIA certainly assumes all responsibility for lost luggage.
I don't want your responsibility. I just want my clean shirts. I got a business meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yes, my husband has an important business meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow
I just said that, Gwen. What are you wasting time telling them what I just said?
Well, we'd be glad to put you up in a hotel in Boston tonight, and you can make our 7 a.m. flight to New York in the morning.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Wait, supposing New York is still fogged in?
Well, we can't guarantee the weather, of course.
You can't guarantee a large gray suitcase and a small brown one.
It's a large brown one and a small
And what's
gray.
the difference what color they are if they're lost?
Well, I see no reason to assume it won't show up.
I saw no reason to assume I wouldn't be in New York tonight, and I'm in Boston looking for baggage that you assume isn't lost.
There's something wrong?
Yes, my husband has an ulcer and his medicine is in the assumed
Come
luggage.
on. We'll be at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. I don't get my baggage by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, your lawyers are going to hear from my lawyers. You got my name right?
Oh, yes, sir. Kellerman. Frank Kellerman.
George Kellerman. You see, first you waste my time trying to get my name right, and then you get my name wrong. George.
Come on.
George.
We haven't got time. Thank you.
God, first they lose my baggage, then they're going to send it to some knot named Frank Kellerman. You're going to hear from me if I don't hear from you.
The Out-of-Towners is a lot of fun. You'll relate to Jack Lemmon as the common man fighting cold, big city indignities. But you'll be acutely aware of the strong relationship the weary married couple continue to share. The humanity of the Out-of-Towners is the marriage vow for better or worse. George and Gwen Kellerman stick out the adversity of their trip by looking after each other, because in New York City, no one else will. The Out-of-Towners is rated G, and the United States Catholic Conference has okayed the content of the movie for all ages. This is Vintage VCR. I'm Joe O'Neill.
Do you know who first recommended that movie to me?
No, who?
Patrick, our Irish tour guide along the shores of the Ring of Kerry.
You can't go wrong. And you'll stay right with us on the Ring of Kerry if you wait now till we come right back.
Strong and ever-growing rich in faith, the Diocese of Trenton has been serving the needs of many since it was established in 1881. In the 1700s, it was a constant struggle for our forefathers to plant the seeds of our faith at a time when Catholics were persecuted and had little rights, if any, to practice their religion. Responding to the increasing Catholic population in New Jersey in 1814, John Baptist Sartori, a layman and envoy from the Holy See to the United States, helped establish the first Catholic parish in the state, the Church of St. John in Trenton. Today, the diocese supports many schools, a hospital, varied social and charitable services, and institutional programs. Serving almost 600,000 Catholics in 4 counties, the diocese continues to respond to the needs of the times. For the Catholic Bicentennial Minute, I'm Bishop John C. Reese.
We welcome your comments and suggestions and encourage you to write us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Room 907, Philadelphia 19103, or call us during regular business hours at 215-668-9842.
We're saying a lot about combinations tonight, and I think one of the things that keeps combinations from working is our fear to try them.
And fear of the unknown. Maybe that's where prejudice comes from. Well, tonight we have 2 stories that are related to this fear. The first one comes from the story of Father Tom Takahashi, whose incredible story of faith overcomes prejudices from way back when in World War II. And then, of course, we're going to have a visit with Father Bob Curtis and his eloquent ways.
After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, hysteria swept the United States. In the midst of this hysteria, President Roosevelt signed an executive order which forced thousands of Japanese Americans from their homes and into relocation camps. They had only a matter of hours to pack. Their money, land, homes, businesses, everything was taken, never to be returned. Tom Takahashi was 22 years old when he and his family were imprisoned in an internment camp in Northern California. This was not the America Tom's parents had dreamed of when they moved to California in the early 1900s. The Takahashis had settled in the little Tokyo area of Los Angeles, where Tom was born in 1919. Tom attended a Maryknoll school in his early days, and although his family practiced the Buddhist religion, Tom was touched by the teachings of the Maryknoll priests. When Tom was 9, he was stricken with a flu that was taking many lives in his community. Near death, he insisted on converting to Catholicism. A priest came to his sickbed, baptized him, and he became well. This was the dramatic beginning of a belief in Christ that would strengthen him throughout the trials and tribulations of his life. Tom went on to graduate from Loyola High School and later worked alongside his father in the family barbershop. But the events of the times were soon to change his life forever. As the United States entered World War II, Roosevelt's actions against all Japanese Americans had an immediate and drastic effect on Tom's life. Soldiers led he and his family to trains which deposited them at their new residence, Camp Manzanar. But Tom's confinement was not a defeat. Rather, it became a test of his courage and of his faith in God. To quote Tom, "I had many experiences of the resilience of human nature while I was in the camp. I learned to barter and pilfer for good causes. For example, in the winter, people used to come to early morning mass in darkness. I managed to persuade the supervisor to put up lights by bribing him with meat from the butcher shop where I worked part-time. Once, we had a riot in the camp because people were being shortchanged on food. One man was killed. When I got back to my quarters, my instinct was to get down on my knees and pray. It was in the camp that I first thought of becoming a priest." The Takahashi family moved to Boys Town in Nebraska. There, young Tom entered the Maryknoll Seminary. In 1953, Tom Takahashi was ordained a Maryknoll father. Later that year, he finally returned to his roots and said his first Mass in Los Angeles. He went back to Little Tokyo and stood on the corner where he once lived. The house in which he had been born was gone. Gone, too, were his family and friends. Only the memories of the hardships and injustices remained. Father Tom worked throughout the next 35 years of his life as a Maryknoll missionary, fighting against prejudice and inequities and teaching forgiveness. He once wrote, When I say the Our Father every day, I reflect on the part where we forgive our enemies and thus are forgiven our own sins. It has helped me to make peace with the memory and the pain. Father Tom Takahashi passed away at Maryknoll, New York, January 21st, 1989. But he left us with a legacy, a Christ-like example of the forgiveness he practiced during his life.
You hear a lot about religious education today, and you should. Mostly you hear about it in connection with children, and you should. Religious education can be helpful to every child in this world, mightily helpful. But in fact, religious education is not just for children. It's a never-ending process, a way of life, a way of opening oneself to life and the life beyond. Religion has to begin with information. It's useful to everyone, even non-believers, to know something about religion. There was a time when I did not. I knew nothing about religion, certainly nothing about scriptures. And I had a pregnant cousin who was very deep into Bible studies. And when she gave birth, she sent me a telegram which only said on it, Isaiah 9:6, which I now know reads, "Unto us a child is born, a son is given." At that time, I had no idea what Isaiah 9:6 meant. So I sent back a telegram which read, "Congratulations, apparently you have a son who weighs 9 pounds, 6 ounces, but why on earth would you ever name anybody Isaiah?" Without education, you see, communication is very limited. Religious education is a term you'll hear more and more. Everyone says we need it, but what is the it we need? I'll tell you what I think the it is. When we profess our faith and when we practice it, we involve ourselves in awesome things. St. Paul wrote to the Ephesians, "God, in his love for us, brought us to life in Christ, without whom we would be in death." God gave us life when he gave us Christ. God raised us up and gave us a place in the heavens. This is not your own doing. It is God's gift. A place in the heavens? Is this true? Even if it's only possibly true, we must learn about it. That's what religious education is. We must never stop learning about what this means. This gift of life, this gift of love, this gift of God, this gift of vision, this gift of creation, this gift of Omega, this gift of eternity.
Now here's a real combination for you.
God bless you.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen, Newtown Square, PA, 215-359-5980.